Hi, and welcome to Artisan Stories. I'm Jill Roberts, and today I'm here with.
Marianne Hood from Solstice Kombucha.
Hi, Marianne. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. I was on your website a little bit today, and it seems like you have a very interesting story. You started in winemaking, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And now you do, am I saying it correctly? Kombucha.
Kombucha.
Tell me a little bit about what that is, because I think a lot of people may not even know what kombucha is.
Kombucha is fermented tea. And because it's fermented, it's very good for your digestion because of the probiotics that you
Okay.
gain from the yeast and the bacteria that are inside.
What was the switch from where your journey started in winemaking? And then I even read that you did a little cake decorating. You had a cake decorator. How did that
Yeah,
lead you to here?
I've been always working with my hands. I was a hairdresser at one point when I graduated high school. I just love working with my hands, creating things that way.
Okay.
And because wine is a fermented beverage, kombucha is fermented, it was really easy to make that transition from one to the other.
Okay.
But going from wine to kombucha was really my daughter's doing.
Okay. Tell me about that.
She works for a naturopathic doctor, and the doctors would always bring her kombucha during lunch. So she was bringing all these bottles of this beverage, filling up our refrigerator, and I didn't know what this thing was. I didn't even know how to say it. I didn't even know it existed, although it is an ancient sort of beverage. It's like from 221 BC
Okay.
is how far back they can figure that kombucha has been around.
Wow.
So I asked her, Sarah, what is all this that you keep bringing home? And she told me kombucha. I'm like, what is that? Like, okay, kombucha. She said it's fermented tea. It's good for your gut, probiotics, good B vitamins, more healthy than soda. So, of course, I had to taste it because there was like 5 different flavors that she had. And I went like this. Oh, what is that? Because it's fermented, it has like a vinegar taste to it. So it's kind of on the sour side. I asked her, like, why do people drink this? She explained the health benefits to me. And then when I looked it up, I realized that it was fermented. So I figured if I can make wine, I can probably make kombucha. So I ordered my glass jar there and got my little SCOBY. And the SCOBY is where the yeast and bacteria are in.
Okay.
And I just decided to do a test batch in my house. And I realized that I just loved watching it transform from tea to this fermented, sour, vinegary type beverage.
So you brought this jar today. Is this part of the process? Is this what you're explaining to me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you basically make a big batch of sweet tea.
Okay.
And then you take this starter liquid, which is basically very robust, strong, sour kombucha. And then you add that to your sweet tea. And then you put a SCOBY in, it's actually called a pellicle. It is a cellulose mat that grows on top of the ferment.
Okay.
And
Is that what we see floating around in there?
yes,
Okay.
it's just a natural byproduct of the fermentation.
Okay. Okay.
And so watching it transform like that was just so interesting to me. And then what you do afterwards is you flavor it with fruits or herbs or anything that you like.
When you're flavoring it with fruits, are you cutting up the fruits and putting it in there? Are you mashing it in there?
Well, after you decide that it's to the liking that you want, the sourness, like it loses some sweetness because of the fermentation.
Okay.
The yeast that's in there consumes the sugar and converts that to alcohol. And then the bacteria that's also present in there will consume the alcohol and convert that to acid. And that's how you get that sour vinegar type flavor to it.
I would imagine that consistency is critical. Like, how do you keep each of your batches, and especially with flavors, consistent?
I'm always testing. There's a pH balance, there's the residual sugar that you test. But for the home brewer, you just taste it, see how you like it, and
Okay.
then you can go on to add your flavors to it that way.
You were making it out of your home. Oh, and I imagine that using all these ingredients, the products that you make, using the salt and the oregano, they have to have such a unique flavor.
Yeah. So a lot of people ask me, why is this so good?
Oh, right.
And I go, the secret is the olive oil or the salt that we use.
Right. Excellent, excellent. The olives, that was interesting about your story. You actually will harvest annually the olives
Yes,
in
so
grape.
olive season harvest is between November and January. We actually pick our olives green. You get more nutrients and better quality olive oil. You get less olive oil, but it's a better olive oil.
Okay,
We're going for the quality, not the quantity.
okay,
A lot of the farmers wait until January. Think of like a ripe fruit. It gets juicier, so they'll make more money off the weight.
right.
Not as good though. You lose the health benefits and everything when you wait longer.
Okay.
In November, we go down there, we pick it. My father's usually the one that goes down, he organizes it. He hires my uncles and cousins, and they help out.
And I saw on the website you lay stuff under the tree, right, to kind of catch the
Yeah.
olive, right?
So basically, you take a tree, and there's a few methods that we do. There's this machine that basically knocks the olives off the branches.
Okay,
Then the other method is somebody goes in the tree. So we basically prune the trees as well at the same
Yes,
time.
yep.
So they'll cut the branches off. And there's a machine that we put it through, and we pull it out, and it separates the leaves and the olives. And that's another way of filling up the sacks. So basically, the point is we fill up the sacks. At the end of the day, we bring it to the village press,
okay,
and we tell them we're bringing our olives today. We bring it there, and they start pressing it. So at this point, they drop it through the machine. They wash all the olives,
okay.
and then it goes to the press. So it's basically it starts pressing for an hour, and the key word is cold press. So it needs to be at no point, because you're using machines now. It's not your old school stone and donkey walking around. But there's all temperature gauge in there. So if it gets too hot, the press slows down. So at no point it should be over a certain temperature,
Okay,
because then you ruin the olive oil.
okay,
From there, it goes through this other machine that separates basically the water and the oil. So, and you can see the water separating one side and the oil separating on the other side.
right.
And then they go into filling up in containers that we send over here.
So it's all bottled in Greece and then sent back
Then
here.
sent back over here. Yep.
Okay.
So basically, when it gets sent over here, we go pick it up from New York, and then we bring it to our house. And then from the olive oil, we also make the food products over here.
Yeah, show me what you have here.
So over here we got red pepper hummus, which we roast the peppers ourselves.
Okay.
Roasted beet hummus, which that's our newest product that I love the color of it and
Yeah, that's
everything.
great,
But same
yes.
concept. We roast our own beets, and from there we use the chickpeas and make the hummus.
Okay.
Our basic classic hummus. The next one is, you can pronounce the name on the
Melanzano salata with a Greek pronounce.
with the Greek pronunciation. So it's almost like baba ganoush. So it's eggplant.
Okay.
So baba ganoush is a little more smoother,
Okay.
where that is a little more chunkier. So you could eat it as a dip, or you could put it on a steak. It goes very well. And then the last one would be baklava.
Yep.
The neat thing about that, instead of butter, which is traditional to use butter,
Yes.
we spray each sheet with olive oil. So technically a little healthier than using butter, but you still get that amazing crisp and the color on.
Oh yeah. And also in baklava, I use the thyme honey, which from Crete,
Okay.
in the syrup, so it gives extra taste.
Because tell me how the baklava again. What's the lay? It's a lot of layers, right? With the pastry. What else is in it?
It's a walnuts,
Okay.
and then it's a cinnamon. We use some spices for aroma, and in the end, after we bake it, we put it sugar syrup on top with the thyme honey in it.
And
And
then tell
then-
me what this is.
So that is a spanakopita, spinach pie stuffed with spinach and feta.
Okay.
But the cool thing about that is that Anna makes the phyllo dough from scratch.
I can roll the phyllo dough, and then I fill it with spinach and feta and some of the leeks, onions. I sell in frozen.
Right, and then your customer would bake it.
And they bake it
correct?
off. But a very old
Okay.
tradition that nobody does anymore.
Right.
I mean, even in Greece, it's very hard to find somebody that hand rolls phyllo dough.
And how did you learn? How that was
I learned from my mother,
okay.
but it needs a lot of skill and practice to get right.
Right.
Yeah, as a chef, I can't do it.
You get,
Why I do what I do is because it does bring me back to the times when things were much more simple and happy and
yes.
stuff like. Not the saying that things aren't happy now,
Right.
but if you don't have to worry about bills or
Yeah.
anything like that, you know, really, really wonderful time.
Your business name, Passionately Pasta, it's fitting because this is a passion of yours.
It is.
I mean, even your tattoo on your arm.
Yes,
I can't-
it's healing right now, but yes, I actually just got the ink done last week. It was actually an early birthday gift to myself, and after 7 years and wanting my next one, I said, you know what, let me do something that I actually will never regret putting on my body. Pasta
And
was
it's fun.
one of those things.
Tell us about your pasta products.
The wonderful thing about the pasta products that I do, I actually mill my own flour in my shop to provide not only a different flavor with the pasta, but also it contains a little bit more nutritional density. I found out that by making pasta from scratch was great, but I wanted to step it up further and actually mill the flour that I had instead of using stuff that was from the store.
So what goes into that process of milling?
Actually have a couple grain mills. They're big, so I couldn't bring those for a visual tonight. I go right over the Massachusetts border to pick up my grain, and then I have these two mills that are stone mills, and what happens is you pour the grain into it, and there's two stone burrs that actually grind it into a flour. And then from that point, depending on what I use the flour for, I'll either sift it or I will just leave it naturally as it is. Which is why the coloring in the pasta is significantly different from that you normally would see in the store. I don't bleach the flour. I don't use anything that would adulterate the naturalness of the pasta.
And milling it yourself also allows you to get the coarseness that you need
Yes.
for the certain type of
Yes.
pastas. You brought some pasta with you here today.
did.
What are some of the other shapes pasta that you create?
These are actually an extruded pasta that I dried out. I have rigatoni, fettuccine, pappardelle. These two here I have campanelli and crestagallo, which are two of my personal favorites because of the uniqueness of the shape. But I also have gnocchetti, orecchietti available, and trotole, which is kind of like the cousin to campanelli. So it's still like a curlicue kind of pasta. Those are my extruded types. I also do, make lasagnas. I make cheese stuffed shells. My favorite handmade pastas are usually the raviolis that I do. They require a little bit more attention to detail, where it kind of does bring me back into the sense of when I first was in the restaurant making something. To be more hands-on allows me to focus more, allows me to put more energy into it. I want it to be authentic enough that when people taste it, they taste it as if they were going to grandma's or if they were eating at a really nice restaurant. That I wanted to show that pasta didn't have to be something that was kind of like an okay standard. I wanted it to be the standout.
This pasta that you brought here today is dried. Is all of your pasta, it's dried?
No, actually, when I make the fresh pasta, I usually make it in batches, and so after I get done weighing out the pasta, usually there's about several ounces that tend to be left over, and rather than letting those go to waste, because they don't make a full pound, I will dehydrate them, and then in the next week or two, I usually have enough to make a pound or so out of the dried. So it'll last for several months on the shelf, no problem.
Take me on the journey. So
Yeah.
you first start that first ravioli. You're in the restaurant and you realize this is. Take me on the journey after that, because you have a brick and mortar store.
I do.
So
Just
take me
opened
on
up.
that journey. How you got from there to.
I was making pasta and still working in restaurants. I would be working 12 to 13-hour shifts. One night I would come home, make a ravioli dough, vacuum seal it, go to sleep, wake up the next day, go into work, come back for my 13-hour shift, roll out a ravioli. In the restaurant, I would be making ravioli or, tortellini, and I know that there's so many more shapes out there than just the two.